About now. Thanks, John. I forgot to turn my mic on. Can you hear me now? First mistake of the live stream. I've only been away 1 week. Thanks, John. Thanks for joining, mate. So where do I know you from, John? Because I post on different social media, so I'm just wondering where I know you from. Is it Instagram, Facebook, here? Have you just stumbled across the video? Welcome, whoever else has joined. Thanks for joining. We're getting started momentarily. Just had the first blip of the night. I didn't have my mic turned on, so it's alive. It's going to happen. Sure, everything else is good. So I'll apologise now if I'm not always looking directly at the camera. I am looking at a big screen which is monitoring my phone, and I'm also looking at my laptop. All right. Thanks, mate. Thanks for joining. Just busy, man of many talents. So anyway, whoever's joined so far, going to get started. Welcome to this live build stream. It's a retro build stream, so I've got a lot of old shit that I still use today. I'm going to make some coils, which I'm going to make from scratch, so you get to see what goes into it, or if you're learning how to make coils, you see what goes into it. Hopefully, I know this is not something normally somebody would say, but hopefully there's a few mistakes, so if you ever come across them, if it's something that can be corrected, obviously you'll know because I've corrected it. So I've got a drink. I have been so busy for the past couple of weeks, I haven't been able to go drink shopping, but I've just gone to my go-to, which are these from Lidl, these coffee stouts. I'm a stout drinker, a dessert stout drinker, and a sour fan. So I'm going to crack one of these open. So like I say, it's just a standard one from Lidl, 5.2%. It's just my go-to that I use. Whip this open. You guys drinking anything, or whether it's alcoholic, hot, cup of tea? And I've got a nice cold glass as well that's out of the freezer. So let me get into camera properly and go for the pour. So these are nice and cold as well. These have been in the freezer as well. Yeah, this one's from Aldi, not Lidl, Aldi. Ooh. Oh, most definitely. You can't beat an iron brew. Can't beat an iron brew. Anyway, I just had to think because it was spilling over then. But cheers, everybody. Anybody that joins, and obviously replay crew. Yeah, beautiful stout. I'll pair it with what I'm pairing, what I'm vaping in this. This is a dessert juice that I cannot mention, I'm afraid, because the person that makes it wants me to keep stum about it, but it is a dessert flavour. So we'll do a pair. I did do a pair with another one that I didn't like, so we'll see how it goes. So yeah, I like that pairing. It makes that coffee just a bit more bitter. But this is a creamy dessert vape. So, cheers. Right, you'll probably see me throwing stuff underneath my bench. I'm not a mucky bastard. I've got a thingy. So I'm working with one camera, so I will be moving it about. I'm using my phone, so it will be moving around, and also I'm trying to get you as close as I can when I'm doing certain things when I'm making the coils as well. So hopefully that's all right. Oh, definitely. No, it is a secret juice. So I'll get you here in front of me. There we are. And I'll adjust. The thing is the person that makes the juice that I'm using, he makes it for a living. So I'm his guinea pig, and I liked it, and he's made me a bottle. But like I say, I have to keep stum about it until he tells me different. So I'm gonna just change the angle of or change the view of my camera so you can see me a bit better, and I can adjust my camera just so you can see my desk here and what I'm doing. I will be adjusting as well throughout the video. So like I say, I'm going to be doing some interlock aliens. I'm doing some 28 gauge core interlock aliens because I want to put it on an RTA with a single coil and hopefully run it on a series mech. So this is what we're doing today. It's the OG Kylin. Now this one, when it came out, this got a lot of use. This was one of my favorite RTAs. So this is in the 6mm mode, this one. Let's see if I can get that a bit better, like that. So it's the OG Kylin. Yeah, it was. I do have another two RTA, Kylin RTAs, but I've always been a fan of the OG. And I think this came out, I think, is it 7-8 years ago now? So I'm gonna do just a slight bit of up closey with it so you can see it a bit better. So that's in 6mm mode. Juice flow as well. So that's the deck, postless deck. Gold plated. Yeah, boobies. Who doesn't like boobies? So it's a postless deck. Postless deck. So will be wanting to put a single coil in there, hopefully a 4mm coil in there. So you've got airflow coming from underneath the coil and also the sides there. Big holes, nice wicking channels for your cotton there. Hey, nothing to be sorry about, mate. Nothing to be sorry about. So that's the airflow there, just one Cyclops slit just there. Now, when this was brand new, this did actually give you a nice satisfying click. You can still feel the click on it, but it's very light. Like I say, it's had plenty of use over the years. I'm trying to not have my fingers in the way. But there is a click, and it does sort of like, that's the first click, that's the second click, that's the third, that's the fourth, shut straight off, and it does stop, open and close, it does stop. That's underneath. So plenty of scratching, it's had plenty of use over the years. And your post screws just there on each side. So the only problem with this RTA is when you lay your coils in, the screws are on the opposite side, so it can jam up your leads. But yeah, that's that. I will get to the mod after I've done the build, if you're wondering what mod I'm going to be using. So nice conical in there. Like I say, it's a bit stained and a bit beat up. It has had a lot of use but obviously it wasn't like that brand new, it was spotless. So that will help with some flavour as well. So drip tip that came with it, and top fill. So it's not a quarter turn or anything, it is screw off. There we are. And some nice size kidney holes just there. And there we are. So like I said, this is in 6mm mode. Originally it comes in like a 2mm mode, which is actually nice as long as you haven't got a low build and it's going to be drinking juice. But obviously I'm using a big build and I always used to use it in 6mm mode. So that's the tank I'm going to be building on. Like I say, I normally get to the mod after I've done the build, depending on what build or how it comes out, how the build comes out. So that's that. And I keep all my RTAs and RDAs in these pop tubs, just keeps them clean. Yeah, well, they all did it. They all learnt off each other and copied ideas, like with when the Velocity came out and everybody copied the Velocity deck. You know, a lot of good ideas come from a lot of other RTAs. So I'm going to just so you can see my bench, make sure you're straight so you don't look weird. There we are. And there we are. So my setup is pretty simple. I have a little table that I've chopped the legs off because I like to have my coils about eye length going across. So I use that. I'm just going to put some thingies down. I will move it out the way in a second, sorry. So you can see what I'm doing a bit better. So I'm going to pop that there, just there. So hopefully you'll see the beginning of the coil here going across. Exactly, John, progression. So you can use your normal cordless drill and everything, works exactly the same way. I use this, it's a Daedalus Pro drill. Now back in the day I did use this a lot, but like I say in all my streams, it did take the fun out of making coils for me. So I'm just going to open the chuck just there. Now to keep my cores nice and straight, I use this little nifty device here, and it keeps your cores straight in your chuck. And this is from the Handy Coil factory over in France. So as you know, your drills, doesn't matter which one it is, when it closes to a point, and it can be a bugger sometimes to have all your wire straight and parallel next to each other. So like I say, I use this little nifty device, well worth the money, and doesn't cost that much either, even with postage to the UK. So I'm going to pop that into my chuck. I use this little nutcracker just to snip that up there, tighten that up so it doesn't go anywhere. So I want my drill about here. So this drill does go forward and backwards, and I can control the speed that I'm doing it. So I position that like that. I use a clamp to keep it in place. This is another thing that I got. This was from Screwfix, if I remember correctly. Thank you, everybody that's joined. Rob, thanks for joining, mate. Good to see you. Yes, I do. I do have the blotto, mate. Cloud Labs Limited, thank you for joining, mate. Thank you. Vaping Brummy, thanks for Charles. Thanks for joining, mate. So I'm using this clamp that I got from Screwfix. Is it Screwfix? Yeah, Screwfix I got it from, and I use that just to keep my drill clamped to my bench so it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm just going to clamp that on there, just so that doesn't move there like that. Right, some tools that I will need, or I'm going to be using while I'm building, is obviously some snippers. and some pliers just there, like so. I will need them. Obviously, a few other things. I do have my swivel. So I use this swivel. It's just a clamp that I got from Aldi ages ago. Piece of wood attached to a couple of swivels that did come with this kit, the Daedalus Pro kit. Ball bearing swivels, don't use anything other than ball bearing swivels. Otherwise, it's just they're the best option that you can use. So that's my swivels that I'm going to be attaching to, and that just clamps to the bottom of my bench as well. So I am trying to make sure I keep an eye on everybody in chat as well. So if I miss your comment, I do apologise. So I'm going to be using 28 gauge for my Coils. So this is just normal Kenthal from Crazy Wire. I've never lost it. Cloud Labs. It's just always been something that I like and I loved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 pieces out of this. I'm only doing one coil, one big coil. So I want about, I'd say, 20 centimeters, 200 millimeters. And if you're from the USA, I do not know what it is in inches. So I'm just obviously holding that. It's a thin wire, 28 gauge. I'm just pulling just so it tugs a bit. And then on my bench here, I do have some markings where I can measure. So I'm going to snip, like I say, 20 centimeters for both of my... Oh, don't worry, Charles. I understand you're busy, mate. Thanks for dropping in. If you're staying in or you're dipping in and out, no worries, bro. So another piece as well, I'm going to be pulling to make it straight. You can use the truck of your drill, but I don't need to in this case. So what I normally do is when I'm doing anything like this, and where are we? There we are, that's my second piece. So I do 2 pieces that are the same length, and the bit that I'm doing my decor off, or my Clapton, to do Make Me Alien, I always need slightly extra. So this piece, the third piece, which I'll be doing my decor on and everything, I'm going to be doing about 30 centimeters in length. So same again, take it, pull it, and because I messed up there, I'm going to have to pull it again. So take the end again without letting go of it. Give it a little tug and it'll straighten out. So this piece I'm going to do slightly longer because I'm decoring off it, or I'm going to be making my alien part off this piece here. So this is what I'm going to be putting in my chuck to make my Clapton, to make obviously my decor. So I've got my 3 pieces, one slightly longer than the other, like so. So with this one, or the longer piece, I'm going to be putting straight into my chuck. So I'm going to just open this up. Now I haven't mentioned, but I do wear these because my eyesight isn't very good, and this gives me a right good view of my wire as well. So being very careful with it, because obviously it is thin and easy to bend as well, and I always like to give myself just slightly extra just so I can play with it. So this does have a dimple in the center of it where the wire can just lay flat and center. So I'm just going to pop that in there like that. Make sure it's in that little divot there, and then clamp down. And then I'm just going to lock that in. like so, and then that's in the center there. So with this side, I'm going to pop this into my swivel. So I'm just going to bring my swivel over like so. And don't want it too close because I'm just anchoring it in at the moment. But what I want to do with this side is plain and simple. I'm just going to put a little L in there like so. Pop that bit through my swivel. Just let me move that bit over there like that. So with my L bit just here, I'm going to pop that through my swivel. Keep it nice and taut against the drill, so I'm pulling that way towards the swivel. And then I'm just going to wrap that bit of wire just round there like so. Lock it in. Then I'm going to tighten up. I'm going to move my swivel and vise just back just to make it taut. Now with this bit here, I want it about like that, as you can see. I want it to be taut, but not too taut that, you know, it's going to put too much strain on it when I am doing it. So with an interlock alien, very similar to a normal alien, only instead of having one wire that you clapton all the way across, it's a parallel wire. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to clapton it with the first wire halfway, okay, and then stop. And then I'm going to clapton in between that clapton with another wire halfway, and then it'll stretch to the end of here. And then I've got my D-core. So when you're doing aliens, depending on which where you're comfortable wrapping, which in my case I'm comfortable wrapping over the top of my coil, the way I'm going to do my clapton and my D-core, I'm going to wrap from underneath. So whichever way you're comfortable wrapping your alien part, you've got to do your D-core alien the opposite way. So I will be wrapping the clapton from underneath. So I've got it nice and taut here. So my wrap wire, I'm going to be using 36 gauge NI80 from Stealth Vape. So I'm going to be using some of that. So where's my tweezers? I'll just grab some tweezers. So I'm going to make sure that my drill is in the opposite way, which it is. I want it wrapping that way, so my wire comes from underneath. So I forgot to actually put an L in there so it sticks out. So not a problem. So what I'm going to do is just very quickly, before I forget what I'm doing, is I'm just going to get a tape measure and just measure how long that wire is. So I am looking at about 10.5 inches. So I want to be about 5.25 inches. So this first bit of wire that I'm going to be claptoning, I'm just going to be claptoning up to about halfway. Okay, for the first bit. Any questions or you don't understand what I'm saying, feel free to ask. Obviously, if you already know how to make coils, you can just sit and enjoy. So I'm just going to take this bit of my wire and I'm going to just wrap it a few times around this bolt here that's sticking out. Once you get going, it should be okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lock it in with a few wraps. A few wraps like that. So I've got that locked in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring you a bit closer so you can see what I am doing. So I want to be about there. Just let me put this down for 1 second. Where's my thingy? So I want to lock in the focus there. Keep it there. So hopefully that'll stay in focus for what I'm doing. So all I'm doing here is just doing a normal Clapton, keeping my wire 90-degree angle. If you go back over on yourself, don't panic, just reverse, undo it, and then do it again. So in this case, I'm not going to be holding my spool too tight because I want it to be able to move. And then obviously when I'm doing my second bit of Clapton going in between them, I want it to be able to move so it's got room for it to cover the other end. All right, Lee, how we doing, mate? Thanks for coming in, mate. Appreciate it. So Lee, I'm doing some interlock aliens with 28 gauge because I'm going to be hopefully doing a single coil and putting it on a series mech. But thanks for coming in, mate. So now I'm just going to be just simple Clapton in, not holding my spool too tight. There's no need to. So like I say, I'm going to be just doing it about halfway down this line, or halfway down this piece of wire. So I don't know if this is happening or not, because sometimes this mic cancels out the sound of this drill. So I hope I'm not shouting if it is, and I hope you can hear me if it isn't. But like I say, I'm just Claptoning it. I'm holding it at a 90-degree angle, not very tight. I'm just letting it do its thing. And it seems to be wrapping perfectly like that. And that's perfect. And then when I get to around about halfway, I'll just measure how much I've got Clapton of this piece. So I'm wearing binoculars just so I can see everything's consistent and everything. Not too much tension on my spool, I'm just letting it do its thing. So you're going a bit out of view now, so I'm just going to turn you like that. So I'm just going to slow it down just there and turn it off just so I can measure it. Let me change this so you can actually see what I'm doing. So I've got about as much as I need halfway at this point. So it is going to recoil back on itself, so it will swivel back a bit just because of the recoil of it. So I'm going to leave obviously a bit of a tail on there like that. So as you can see, it did recoil a bit. So what I'm doing now is, if I just move around just here, what I'm looking for is to be able to move it. So right that way. Just stick my hand there and get it to, there we are, focus. So what I want to be able to do here is I want it to move. Can you see how it's moving? That's how I want it. That's how I want it to move. So now that I've gone halfway down to where I need to be, I'm going to attach my wire again here and then Clapton in between that. So I've literally got two wires parallel Clapton in. So this bit that I've got, that's halfway. Obviously with the wire going in between this bit will end up moving obviously to the end here where my swivel is, just there. So I'll get you nice and close again so you can see this bit, what I'm actually doing. Let me lock in this. Lock in this focus so you can see. I want it locked, and then I want it there. So as you can see at the end, I did leave a bit of a gap, a bit of space in there, and that's just to help the other wire fall in between. So like I say, it's very slack, which is what I want. It'll help with going in between that first clapton. So same again, underneath, same direction when you're doing this parallel bit or fusing the wire in between, same direction, don't change your direction as long as it's the opposite way to your final wrap. So I'm just going to take this wire and do exactly the same as I did before. Is I'm going to try and get it in between one of those pieces of wire, and then I'm going to wrap it around that little nut that I did before. Normally I do leave a little tail out the side to do it, but I didn't do it this time. I forgot. So I'm just wrapping it around there. So here I'm not going to be holding it too tight, but I want it tight enough so it goes in between that fuse bit. So the grip that I had initially was light. This is still light, but just slightly bit more tension, just so it goes in between that wire. There we are. So same thing, 90-degree angle, and start off slow just to see that it's fusing in between, which I can see it is. So as you can see, that wire is fusing in between that layer of wire. So I'm going to build up speed a bit. I don't want to mess it up, so, and obviously I don't want it to jump. But that, as you can see, that is fusing in between that first piece that I did. And if it does jump or go back on itself, just back up and correct what you've done that is wrong. So still 90-degree angle, and this seems to be going extremely well so far. So I'm going to build up speed. Hopefully my mic is doing its job and is drowning out the sound of the drill. And I'm slowly increasing my speed as I go. So I'm just going to stop there, adjust the camera so you can see how this is going. Just like that. And going to change my focus so you can see what I do. So as you can see, this is slowly moving down the line. So I'm going to carry on. So this is going in between. Ben M, thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining, mate. Nice to see you. So I'm carrying on. There we are. Still going nice. And as you can see at this end, this will be moving down slowly. So this is going pretty well. So I'm going to build up the speed. So I'm just holding it with a bit more tension than I did with the first clapton that I did. Just so it goes in between that wire. keeping it still at a 90-degree angle. There we are, that's doing great. So I'm starting to get to the end of my bit of wire. So as soon as I start getting to the end, I am going to slow down. So I'm just going to slow down there. So I'm going to stop there because I'm at the end of my wire. So I do have a bit of an extra tail bit there, but I'm going to leave a tail on this second bit as well. So that's the part you do for the interlock, or how you get your interlock. You do a normal Clapton wire halfway, stop, then fuse another one in between that, so you've basically got two parallel wires next to each other. So, and that is basically the end there. I do have a bit of extra just there, but I'll sort that out when I snip it out. Trying not to mess up my other two cores, so that's that. There we are. So hopefully as well, because the second piece of wire, I did not do it very, very tight. I should still, yeah, I can still move this slightly, which is not a problem. So what I'm going to do is this end here, I'm just going to snip. I'm just going to quickly shift my swivel out the way without trying to bend this wire. I'm going to snip this wire here. There we are. Now I'm going to see if this will just slide off with ease. Which it won't. So a little trick is to so a little trick so it isn't moving very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this, and what this will do is help decore. There we are. And then just pull your decore straight off that. So I can straighten that back up, don't worry, that's not a problem. But there you have, let me take this autofocus just off, and basically that's your decore wire there. So I'm just going to put that somewhere safe to begin with. So to straighten this wire, I'm just going to grab the end, give it a little tug and spin it, and there we are. We're sort of straight. I'll straighten that up just now. So like I say, if you put too much tug on it, you will get that little bit of a swirl just there. I will sort that out. So just going to undo my chuck just here. Steve, how we doing, mate? Thanks for joining. So because I've created that swirl there, pulling it too tight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this opposite bit into the chuck, this core holder, because that's the flat bit. And then I'm just going to grab this end very lightly and just spin it. And then that'll straighten your wire. If you still, like here, making sure that's there. So if you still have a swirl in your wire just there, just do this. So get your pliers, make sure they haven't got no teeth on it. Grab your wire before it starts to wrinkle just there. Hold it very, very lightly, and then spin your drill, put your drill back on, and then just lightly pull. And then what that'll do is take that swirl out like that. Now there is still a bit of a swirl in there, so I'll do it again like that. And like I say, that will take the, and as you can see there, that has taken that swirl out the end of that wire there. Oh, no worries, mate, no worries, that's fine. What mech are you cleaning? Is it one of your Bonza kits, Steve? So cheers, if you've all got a drink. Have a quick vape. So now, with my other two pieces of wire that I've got, I'm going to grab together like so. So with my third piece of wire that I've done my decor off is obviously going to be longer, which is not a problem. So I'm just going to line them up next to each other so they're more or less parallel, which is what I want them. See what excess wire I do have. So I want one piece slightly long because I'll put that L in the chuck bit just so it's easier for sticking my wire on. So as you can see there, I've just got one piece of wire just slightly longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure they are all parallel. So with the long piece here, I'm going to stick an L in it. So what this L on this side is going to do is going to help assist me grabbing the wire onto this chuck just here. So I want basically the one with the L, I want it in the middle. And I want all these parallel, like so. So I've got it like that. So that sticks out. So I'm gonna load this core up again for my 3 wires. Alright. Yeah, I do that. I spend an evening cleaning all my copper stuff and brass stuff. Do you clean it by hand, Stephen, or do you have a jig that you can put on the end of a drill? Because if you don't actually have one of them, I can highly recommend getting one, because it just makes cleaning mechs a whole lot easier. So I'm going to load this into the core holder again with the 3 wires, making sure that middle one's in the center with that little divot, like I say, should keep it center. There we are. So that's what I was supposed to do last time. I was supposed to have a little bit sticking out there, just easy. So I want to make sure that they are all parallel and next to each other, sitting next to each other like so. So don't worry too much about this end if they're not all straight. Don't worry about it. So what I'm going to be using now is a wire guide. These were also in the Daedalus Pro kit, so they do come in handy. If you've ever had one or you're using one of those kits, it just keeps your wires nice and straight as you're clactoning along. So I'm just going to slide this guide on through my wires. Making sure they're parallel and next to each other. Don't lose my guide, that's all I need. So I'm just going to chop a bit of this off just to make it nice and straight. So I'm going to put my guide on like that. Put it all the way to my chuck end here. And what this will do is keep the wires flat as I'm doing the alien part. So with this end, same again, I'm going to load this up into my swivels, making sure that they are parallel and straight and next to each other all at once. So I'm pulling a bit of tension on there just to keep them all straight. I'm going to stick another L in there like so. So I'm going to bring my swivel over again. Make sure I've got this locked down just a bit. So same thing as my core, I'm going to put these 3 wires through here, making sure that they are parallel and next to each other and not overlapping. Then I'm going to pull this way like that. And then I'm just going to wrap these wires round the end a few times to lock that in. So as that is locked in, I'm going to pull my swivel tight. So in this case, I want this just slightly tighter. Just making sure I don't mess up my D-core there. Just let me move that out of the way. So I want it slightly more taut than, let me get this all focused out for you. And this is not playing ball. There we are. So let me do that again. Hanky Panky, thank you for joining me. Good to see you. So as you can see, I've got that core guide there and those wires are all parallel. Now I do want this slight slack but still taut. Now that is just a bit too slack. Just there like that. Thank you for joining, guys. So I want it just a tidgy bit more taut like that. So I want to be able to move my guide all the way to the cross to the end nice and freely, which is what it's doing. Yeah, nice and freely. Let me just move you back a bit. There we are. So this moves nice and freely all the way across. Like so, nice and free. So now that I've got that set up, it's time to stretch the decor. So let me just grab my decor just here. So it's time to stretch this decor right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one end that I'm going to clamp down, which I'll show you how I'm going to do that in 1 second. So because this one's just slightly longer, I'm just going to pull that out there. So I've got one end there and I've got one end just here. So this end here I'm going to clamp down, and just so you can see what I'm doing, I will remove my camera out of focus. So that's more or less like that. Let me take this auto lock shit off. There we are, so it's a bit better. So it's like that basically. And I'm just going to cut that off to make it level, like that. So let me just zoom out of here, like so. There we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to bring it up just slightly, like that. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm just going to clamp it onto here and then pull. I'm using these clamps. I got these clamps from Aldi. They come in 3 sizes. This is the largest one. So with one end of my decor, which is here, I'm just going to clamp it down on here and make it secure, just so I can stretch it. I don't do the hold and pull method. I like to do the stretch method. That's the way it works for me. So I've got it clamped onto there like that. I cannot tell you how to pull it. It is all by feel. Let me just adjust my chair a bit. It's all about feel. So it's always better to understretch it so you've got a bit of a pinch when you are obviously doing your alien part, or in this case the interlock part. So it's all by feel really, but the way you want it is you want it a bit like like a wine bottle opener corkscrew. You want it a bit like that, but it's always better to understretch it and then have a bit of pinch there. You overstretch it at this stage. If you overstretch it, it's game over. You have to start again and make a whole new decor. So I think I've only ever done it once on a live stream so far where I've overstretched it and I've had to redo a core again. So I'll understretch it and then obviously have my pinch on there. But I can't tell you the feel because it's different for everybody. Everybody is different. So with a pair of pliers, just going to stop that. That's a reminder for me to stick my charger on. So what I'm going to do here, and also I do it by eye as well when I look at it. So with this end, I'm going to make sure I've got both of the wires held and locked in like that, and then I'm going to stretch. Now as I'm stretching, I am also looking very closely, and I'd say I want it about there. So I'm going to let go of the thingy here because it will spring back and recoil a bit. Now you've got to be careful you don't snag it or do anything like that. So I'm just going to have a closer look, which I think I haven't overstretched it, which is a good sign. I'm going to carefully place this in front of me here so it doesn't snag. I'm going to release this clamp just here and get the end. Right. Let me get you close again. Get you down here. I know you pull yours by feel. I can't, like I say, can't explain it. It is all by feel, and it's something you have to play around with. I've just got what you said, hanky panky. I've just So what I'm going to do here, I have done that. I shouldn't have really bothered. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to split one of these wires and poke my put that through the wire there like that. I'm going to pull it through a bit like that. I'm going to use my wire guide just to punch it straight up against there like that. So I'm going to keep that about there. So when you're doing aliens normally, you don't do it like your Clapton where you keep it at a 90-degree angle. You've got to be slightly ahead of the game, so slightly forward, depending on how you do it. I do it right to left. So obviously I want to lean this way, okay? Or so I say I want to lean about that way. Just slightly forward towards my swivel away from the drill. So if you're doing it the opposite way, obviously it'll be at that angle away from the drill towards your swivel. So this moves freely still, just like that. Let me see if I can get that at a bit of a better angle. Because I want you to be able to see much of what I'm doing. So I want to lock that in. There we are. Right, so as you can see there, I've got that locked in there. So what I'm going to do is make sure that your drill is in the opposite way that you did your D-core, which is what I've done because I prefer to wrap over the top. I'm going to do a few wraps just to establish if I'm right or I need to put a pinch on it. Just to get the feel of it. I'll be resting my hand on my bench here, and once I've got a decent enough pinch, if I need to adjust, I can just, the way I'm holding it there, if I've got a good pinch on but need to adjust, all I have to do is twist my arm, twist my finger like that, and that'll increase the tension if I need a bit more pull on it. So let's get going and see how this goes. So I'm going to do a couple of turns, get that out of the way so it doesn't snag. So right, I think that is more or less good. So we'll see how it goes. Now this part I will not be doing it very quickly. I like to do it slowly. The faster I go that's when I tend to mess up. So like I say, slightly ahead of the game, you just want to be leaning forward just slightly. And I think that's not bad. I've got a decent enough pinch on it. There we are, yeah. So as you can see, that's a decent enough pinch I've got on it now. I'm going to keep that tension as much as I can without changing. So what I want to also do is, if I get situations like this, which I have, where it starts to go into a triangle, just go in there with a pair of pliers, straighten that back out, back to parallel. This is why I like to have extra just for little bits like this. So just straighten it out a bit, like so, and then start again. So like I say, if you go wrong at this stage, it's you can't stop, reverse, and go over it. You just got to carry on. So let me. I need a thicker lens on. Just so I can see what it is that I am doing. A bit better. That is a lot better. Ah, there we are. So I'm going to start off again. Get my pinch right. And then I'm not going to go too fast because, like I say, that's when I tend to mess up. But I've got a good pinch on it. I want to keep it that way. I want to try not to mess up like I did then. Little mess ups are not that bad if you're just doing coils for yourself. Obviously, if you're doing it as a business, obviously you want it to be perfect and precise. So if you do speed up slightly, just release your pinch ever so slightly. Always keep more than that 90-degree angle, and just keep an eye as well that you're not making your wires go into a triangle because you're using too much tension or pinch on your decore. So as you can see, there is mistakes in the first part. I've got a decent enough speed going on. I'm not going too fast because I don't want to mess it up. If there is gaps in it, don't worry. And there again, I've messed up. And let's hope I haven't snagged this at all, which I haven't. So as you can see there, I was doing quite well and then messed up there. So like I say, if you mess up, there's nothing you can do. You've got to just carry on, straighten out your wire the best way you can, and start again. Which is about like that. So as you can see, this is still messing up on me. Let's hope I've still got enough wire to make at least one coil. If not, I've got coils to fall back on. But this is a live, so it's gonna mess up. It's tradition for live streams. So I'm going to get going again. So that's probably my mistake, is I'm going too fast. So I'm going to keep it as slow as I can just to make it decent enough, because I seem to keep messing up and I want to be able to get a coil out of this. So yeah, as always, mess it up and looking bad on camera. So, like I say, you mess up, you just got to keep going. It's just the nature of how you do stuff. So my wire keeps on going into a triangle. So far, this is a fail. If I can get this to focus. As you can see, it is not playing ball at the moment. But keep going. I probably won't get a coil out of this. I'll be very lucky if I do. Oh. And I've just caught my wire as well. So that's not going to be good at all. That's going to cause an imperfection. So I'm not saying anything. I'm just going to carry on and see if I can salvage what's left of this wire. And get at least one coil. Right, so as I predicted, that was an absolute fail of a coil just there. I think I need a drink. So As you can see, there's imperfections there. And now this has probably only happened because obviously I'm on a live. If I'm doing this on my own, I can pretty much bang them out pretty decent. But as you can see, there's imperfections, and unfortunately you can't back up and go over it. Which is like that. So, like I say, like that. Unfortunately, that coil is an absolute fail. So, I think what I'll do next time is I'll have backup stuff just to make it a bit more interesting. I wish there was a bit more of you watching. Just what do you want me to do? Do you want me to start again? Do you want me to or maybe my wire was just a bit too slack? I don't think it was. There's enough tension there. It was just probably the way I was holding it and not getting it completely perfect. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it nice and simple. That is an absolute fail. So in this case, what you would have to do is start again. Simply start again. That is a complete fail of a coil. These things do happen, and like I say, in them sort of cases, just boom, there's nothing you can do. Let me just see if I can maybe salvage the cause by unwinding this. So I'm going to put it in reverse. I cannot use this decal now. So I'm just going to take this off. So I've taken that off. That is complete junk. Can do nothing with that. So let me just have a look at this core. So it's not too bad. I think I've got a bit of a bend here, which might have contributed to it going wrong. Maybe I was holding my pinch too hard. I had my pinch too hard. Skiwid, wow, what RTA are you going to be building it on? I'm going to be building it on the OG Kyling RTA. Squid. That's what I'm going to be building it on. But I was wanting to hopefully sort of like make a series coil to go in it, to use it on a series. So I have attempted to do an interlock alien here, and definitely a classic, mate, definitely a classic. So I've messed up doing the interlock bit. Now I've been able to take the back bits, I've been able to take the core bits off, but because I don't want to run too long, I might just make this a normal triple core fuse Clapton, and hopefully next time or next week I will attempt it. Maybe I would have been better doing it with 26 gauge, maybe, but yeah, that interlock did not work at all in this, and like I say, it's alive, so that's probably why it has messed up on me the way it has. I'll stay it like that. Yeah. So I've got 3 wires there. Squid, seeing as that you're in chat and currently the only one watching, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to still do an alien with this wire, or would you like me to shall I just do a normal triple fused Clapton to put in the RDA? Normally run for about a couple of hours, so I'm normally done and starting to build now. Hope you've got something nice to drink. I've got a coffee stout. So if you're still here, Squid, then I'll give you a second to give me an idea what to do. If not, then I'll just make a simple triple core fuse Clapton. True. But you are also the viewer. So I think because so I don't run too long. Not that I mind running too long. Excuse me. Do you even vape? So, okay then, what I'll do is I'll just make a normal triple. You like your Claptons. So I'll do this as a triple core fuse Clapton, then this is 28 gauge. That shouldn't make too much of an issue if I'm just doing a straight up Clapton. So this is 28 gauge Kenthal core, and I'll wrap it with 36 gauge NI80 and hopefully get more or less the same sort of the same outcome that I want from it. So that's what I'll do. I'll just do a triple core fuse Clapton. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just get a section I can just put my wire through like that. Make sure the drill's in the right direction. I'm going to put a few wraps on it just to get it going. I'm using my wire guide. Yeah, true. I always like a standard triple fuse Clapton. So I've got a few wraps going. Let me just adjust so you can see what I'm doing. Squid, do you make your own triple fuse Claptons? The only difference I find between fuse Clapton and the aliens is it gives you it does give you a lot more flavour with the aliens, because there's just a few more crevices and everything for juice to obviously get into. I try and get you in as close as possible so you can see what I'm doing. Like that. So I want to pre-made coil fuse Claptons. So focus for me. Am I too close? Is that why? Focus. Focus. Right. Let me take that focus off, autofocus off. Thanks for jumping back in, whoever's jumped back in. I messed up the interlock alien, so I am just doing just a triple fuse Clapton now. Now stay there. So I'm just doing a triple 28 gauge fuse Clapton because obviously I'm running a bit over time now. So whoever's jumped back in, if you were in here during the thing I was doing an interlock triple alien, that went tits up because obviously you'd have to rewind back the video to see. It just all went to tits. So I'm just now, I've salvaged the cores. I've taken the outer wrap off, and now I'm just doing a simple triple core fuse Clapton, and I don't know why this is behaving the way it is. That bit better. There we are, that's a bit better, a bit too close. So I've had to resort to doing a triple core fuse Clapton, which isn't a bad thing. I'm still going to get great flavour from that. It's just my initial coil build didn't work out. So 90-degree angle. I'm not doing it too tight. I'm not holding it too tight. And then I'm just going to... So in this case, like you see, I have gone over myself. This is a fuse Clapton, so it shouldn't be no problem backing off. And then just carrying on. But when you restart up, just go slow. Just until you get going again. 90-degree angle. And just go from there, really. It's not much of a hard one. So hopefully my mic is doing its job and cancelling out the sound of the drill. So I do apologise if I'm shouting. So I've gone over myself again. So I'm just going to reverse. That's probably one of the good things about fused Claptons is you can back off and you can correct yourself. So I've just reversed. Let me just move that down so you can see what I'm doing. So again, just going to start up very slowly just to get me going again and get straight. So holding it nice and taut, and then when you get a groove going, then you can go right quick. So I haven't got too much tension on for the same reason as doing an alien. I don't want to make it go into a triangle. I still want it to be nice and I want it to be nice and taut. So I've gone back on myself again just because I've got so I'm just going to reverse off there like that. As you can see, I've got a bit of a triangle going on there, which is not much of a problem. I'm just going to straighten that up like that. Shouldn't make too much of an issue. Drilling it back into the correct direction you're wrapping in, and just carry on. Maybe I was holding a bit too much tension on the wire, which has obviously created that triangling of the wire, which is not what I want to do. So I have gone over a bit. I am at the end of that. So have you ever tried? No, I haven't actually. I've never actually tried that method. I have actually seen people, do pasta machines, which I actually do have, pasta making machine. The flat part, I see people obviously running their coils through that just to make it flat and straight. But me personally, I don't, because in the wrapping stage, obviously it's gonna lay flat in the wrapping stage, whatever you're wrapping it over, is what I find anyway. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to snip. Don't want to lose this guide because it's very important. I am just going to move you back a bit. So there you are. That's just a normal triple fused Clapton. As you can see, it's a flat part there. So there is a bit of twisting, but I tend to find with the wrap, it straightens itself out anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move you guys out like so. Take that off. There we are. There we are. So that is the finished product. we eventually got there with a coil. Not the original coil that I wanted, but okay, it's a coil nevertheless, and it has been built. So cheers. So whoever's dipped back in, I've had to change course on my wire because everything went wrong. My favorite fuse. I bet it has. I bet it has. I mean, hopefully that's what I do want to try. I do want to try a few more thinner wires with more wire. Or should I say not more wire, but more cores. So, I'm just going to have a quick look at the wire here. So there's not much really that can go wrong with a triple fuse Clapton. I'm just making sure there's no real imperfections, which there isn't. So I'm going to cut that off there. I am going to obviously coil because I messed up. So let me just move stuff out of the way. 4-person. Thanks for jumping back in, who's ever jumped back in. Like I've said, I've had to change course of my coil build because I messed up. So let me just move that out of the way. Yeah. Yes, it was. Bonza Pro has to be probably my favourite RDA at the moment, for the simple fact it's great in every mode. Single coil, dual coil, squonk mode, in which is what I'm using it in now, in squonk mode. And the way I've got this set up at the moment is I've got it a dual coil only with the single coil reducer. I've got it in there. So I've got two 2.5mm coils, single coil reducer, and it's vaping pretty good. I think the more condensed chamber it has, I'm getting just a smidgen bit of better flavour from it. So here's a bit of a close-up of the wire. It'll focus for me, which it isn't. And like I say, my camera's not playing ball. I hate it when that happens. So if there's any irregularity here, it's me. My phone's disconnected from my TV. So I'm just reconnecting it now. And we're back. Sorry about that. So So will this work now? So there we are. Plus my computer is messing up as well. So let me just refresh that. There we are, that might be a bit better. So while I've got you here, guys, just whoever's dipping in and dipping out, the replay crew, don't forget to hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. It doesn't cost anything and it also helps push those videos out for me. I do appreciate it. So let's get started on this bad boy. So that's obviously what we're building on. Are you still seeing motion and stuff? Or is it just my equipment that's messing? Right, and let's. So that's what we're gonna. Being janky, guys. I'm having problems with connections. It's I open widget. In. Sorry, guys. I'm having some issues. I'm trying to sort it out now. It's my end, and for some reason, it's gone from being completely good to completely messing up on me. Nice one. So hopefully everything will be okay. Oh, and it's still. I am extremely sorry, guys.